Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to really dive into one specific day, August 24th, 2025. And it's a day of, well, stark contrasts. Picture this. Kyiv, big celebrations, defiance in the air. It's Ukraine's 34th Independence Day. A huge moment, right? Commemorating breaking from the Soviet Union back in '91, you can almost hear the speeches, feel that national pride, a nation fighting for its life.
Absolutely, a powerful display.
But then, the very same day, you get this really unsettling news emerging out of Russia.
Yeah.
Serious allegations, we're talking drone strikes, and one allegedly hitting a nuclear power plant. So you have this intense national celebration completely overshadowed by these incredibly grave reports. It forces you to ask, what happens when a conflict pulls nuclear facilities right into the firing line?
And at the same time, highlights this incredible national spirit. It's quite the mix.
It really is. It's not just another headline, is it? It feels like a critical look at how these things, celebration and threat, are kind of reshaping modern war.
Exactly. And that's pretty much our mission for this deep dive. We need to untangle these claims, the counterclaims, understand what it all means, the bigger picture, and really get a handle on why everyone's so concerned about nuclear infrastructure sitting in the middle of a war zone. This isn't just about one incident. It's about this ongoing war of attrition, the tactics being used, and, frankly, the massive risks involved.
Okay, let's get into it then. Rewind to the early hours, August 24th, 2025. Before the celebrations really kicked off in Kyiv.
Right. The reports started coming from Russia.
Yeah, Russian officials claiming Ukraine launched this barrage of drones overnight. Multiple energy sites hit across western Russia. But the really alarming one, the headline grabber, was the nuclear power plant. In the Kursk region, they said a transformer caught fire because of a drone hit.
A transformer fire near reactor buildings is always cause for concern, even if contained.
Definitely. Now, Russian authorities, they were quick to say the fire was put out fast. No injuries reported. And, crucially, radiation levels were normal. They put this out via the plant's press service on Telegram.
Yeah.
But how much can we rely on that initial information?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The immediate reaction from, say, the UN's nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, was very cautious. They acknowledged the media reports, saw what was being said, but they stressed they hadn't received any independent confirmation. Director General Grossi, he basically reiterated the absolute need to protect all nuclear facilities. Always. It shows you how tough it is to verify things in real time.
Especially in a war zone with limited access.
Precisely. The fog of war is thick, and independent verification is incredibly difficult. It's a major challenge for agencies like the IAEA.
And this wasn't just the nuclear plant, was it? The scale seemed much bigger.
Oh, yeah. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed their air defenses shot down 95 Ukrainian drones. 95. Across Russia, overnight.
That's a huge number.
It is. And they said other energy infrastructure was hit, too, like a big fuel export terminal at the port of Ust-Luga. That's up in the Leningrad region. Apparently, debris from about 10 downed drones started a fire there, too. But they said it was contained, no major disruption.
Okay, so Russia's putting out all these claims. What about Ukraine?
Silence, which is pretty standard practice for Kyiv, especially regarding cross-border operations. They rarely confirm or deny these specific strikes.
Right. But that silence, even though it's expected, it just adds another layer of ambiguity, doesn't it? It leaves you wondering.
It absolutely does. And it creates this strange tension because while all this is potentially happening or being alleged, Kyiv is focused on Independence Day. President Zelenskyy, he's on Independence Square giving this really powerful speech talking about resilience, determination, fighting for a just peace. And he really emphasized that Ukraine's future, it's up to us alone, a very strong message of self-reliance.
Especially given the timing, right? There had been that U.S.-Russia summit in Alaska just earlier in August.
Exactly. And there were definite anxieties, whispers that maybe Ukrainian interests could get traded away in some backroom deal.
So Zelensky's words were pushing back hard against that narrative, making it crystal clear. Ukraine decides its own path. Independence Day wasn't just symbolic, it was politically charged.
Very much so. And, stepping back, if these drone strikes are confirmed, particularly hitting deep inside Russia, targeting that kind of critical infrastructure.
It's a significant escalation.
It really is. It signals a certain boldness, a willingness by Ukraine to really take the fight to strategic Russian assets. It challenges Russia's feeling of safety behind its borders.
Okay, so let's widen the lens a bit. This conflict, third year running,
yeah,
it really has become this brutal war of attrition.
Absolutely. It's a grinding conflict, both sides trying to wear the other down. resources, manpower, morale. It's less about quick victories now.
And we've seen energy infrastructure become a major target in this, Russia hitting Ukraine's power grid repeatedly.
Yes, trying to cripple their economy, their military logistics, even civilian life, especially during winter. It's a harsh strategy.
How has Ukraine responded to that? I mean, beyond just defending their own grid.
They've definitely stepped up their own offensive capabilities, using drones, increasingly sophisticated ones, to hit back. We've seen numerous reports of strikes on Russian oil refineries, military airfields, supply depots, things that hurt Russia economically and militarily. It's a tit-for-tat escalation in many ways.
Which brings us back to Kursk. That region seems particularly significant.
It does. Remember, Ukrainian forces made that surprise push into Kursk back in August 2024. Actually took control of several villages.
That's a big moment.
Huge morale boost for Ukraine, and it shifted the dynamic. So when Russia claims almost half of those 95 drones were shot down over Kursk, it tells you that area remains a key focus. It's close to the border, strategically important. It's become this active front, in a way, blurring the lines between border defense and deeper conflict zones.
It really changes the whole map, doesn't it? When infrastructure, hundreds of kilometers from the main fighting, can become a target.
Completely. It forces both sides to spread their defenses thin, protect the homeland, not just the front lines. Kursk is a prime example of that pressure point.
And the mention of a nuclear plant.
Right.
It immediately brings Zaporizhia to mind, doesn't it? That constant worry.
It's impossible not to draw the parallel. Zaporizhia, Europe's biggest nuclear plant under Russian control since March 2022. It's been this source of constant international anxiety.
Accusations flying back and forth. Ukraine saying Russia uses it as a shield, a military base. Russia claiming Ukraine shells it.
Exactly. And the IAEA has been warning about the dangers there relentlessly. The risk of a catastrophic radiation leak is terrifyingly real.
And it's not just direct hits we need to worry about, is it? These plants are fragile.
Extremely fragile. Even when reactors are shut down, they need constant power for cooling systems. They need regular maintenance, skilled staff who aren't under duress. Think about the Kakhovka Dam collapse last year, June 2023. That directly threatened Zaporizhia's cooling water supply. They had to scramble, dig wells.
So it could be a direct strike, or it could be this slow degradation of safety systems under the stress of war. A loss of power, lack of maintenance, human error.
Precisely. The cumulative risk is enormous. It's not just one big potential disaster. It's death by 1,000 cuts, potentially. Any disruption, any mistake can have devastating consequences. The IAEA keeps stressing restraint, but, well, it's a war zone.
A terrifying thought. So internationally, how did this alleged Kursk incident play out, beyond the IAEA's caution?
Well, that caution itself speaks volumes, right? It reflects just how hard it is to get clear, verified information. Misinformation, disinformation are rampant, and the IAEA's own struggles to get full access, even at Zaporizhia, just highlights how difficult ensuring nuclear safety really is when countries are at war. International oversight has its limits in these situations.
A sobering reality. And this is all happening against a backdrop of, well, attempts at diplomacy, however stalled they might seem.
Yeah, there were renewed efforts. You had President Trump back in office since January 25, pushing for talks. That summit in Alaska with Putin in early August.
And Trump issued that 10-day ultimatum to Russia afterwards, didn't he? Halt operations or face more sanctions.
He did, but predictably perhaps, Putin wasn't moved. He rejected ceasefire calls, stuck to his demands, Ukraine ceding the 4 annexed regions, which Kyiv obviously rejects completely.
And Zelenskyy called for another leaders' summit.
Yes. By the end of August 25, he's consistently said Ukraine is ready for talks at the highest level. But Putin refuses to negotiate with him directly, calling him illegitimate. It creates this impasse.
A diplomatic deadlock, basically.
Pretty much. Entrenched positions on both sides. Makes any real breakthrough look incredibly difficult.
But amidst all that high-level maneuvering and the grim news, support for Ukraine didn't waver, did it? Especially on Independence Day.
No, that was notable. You had Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, actually visiting Kyiv on August 24th, meeting with Zelenskyy. It's a very visible show of support.
And Norway announced a significant aid package, too.
That's right, around 7 billion kroner, which is what, nearly $700 million, specifically for air defense, including 2 Patriot systems they're funding jointly with Germany. That's tangible, vital support.
It's so important to remember the human side of all this, beyond the strategies and the nuclear risks.
Absolutely critical, because while we talk about infrastructure and diplomacy, the human cost just keeps mounting. Just weeks before this Independence Day, on August 1st, Kyiv suffered that horrific missile and drone attack. Hundreds killed, civilians, children. They held a day of mourning for 31 people killed in just one apartment building. The youngest victim was only 2 years old.
Just devastating. It puts everything else into perspective.
It really does. These aren't abstract numbers or targets on a map. Their lives shattered, families destroyed. That's the relentless reality on the ground.
And the fighting itself, it just grinds on. Intense battles in the east. Russia claimed gains in Donetsk just before Independence Day.
Yep. Seized a couple of villages, they said. Meanwhile, that Ukrainian presence in Kursk from the August 24 incursion, it's still there. It definitely boosted morale for Independence Day, gave Kyiv that foothold on Russian soil. But the long-term strategic impact, still being debated.
How much does it really change the overall war effort beyond the psychological aspect?
Well, tactically, it forces Russia to react. They have to dedicate troops and resources to defending that border area, potentially pulling them from offensives elsewhere in Ukraine. So it complicates things for Moscow, creates a multi-front headache. But it also stretches Ukraine's own forces. It's part of that complex, shifting battlefield dynamic.
So, wrapping this up, we've looked at this one day, August 24th, 2025, the defiance in Kyiv, the chilling allegations from Russia. Whether the Kursk strike happened exactly as claimed or not, it paints a stark picture.
It really does. Entrenched positions, the influence of outside powers, this incredibly delicate balancing act for the world. And looming over it all, this nuclear dimension, it adds a layer of global urgency, of existential risk that's undeniable.
It feels like we're seeing the rules of engagement, or maybe the perception of risk, changing right before our eyes.
I think that's right. It's almost a normalization of extreme risk. We're talking about attacks near nuclear plants almost as tactical updates. The red lines seem to be blurring, or perhaps they were never as clear as we hoped. And that forces the international community into this reactive stance, constantly trying to manage crises, hoping for restraint in a situation where restraint feels increasingly fragile.
So here's the thought to leave you with. As Ukraine celebrated its independence under the shadow of these nuclear allegations, what does that juxtaposition truly tell us about where warfare is heading? And maybe more importantly, what kind of vigilance, what kind of global effort is actually needed now to protect millions from the potentially catastrophic consequences when critical infrastructure, especially nuclear infrastructure, becomes just another target on the map? How do we safeguard ourselves on this razor's edge? Something to think about.